far? Good. So tonight is our Legacy Award with Phranc, who I'll be talking a little bit about, yes, in a second. Before we do that, I'd like to do a few thank yous. First and foremost, our wonderful volunteers who've been so fantastic throughout this festival. And a really, really, really big round of applause for our amazing tech who have such a difficult job at this festival. Natalie George Productions, at the moment headed by Sadie Langenkamp. So this is kind of the part of the festival that I designed in kind of a really selfish way, right? We've been doing a Legacy Award every year, so it's kind of my chance every year to kind of force some artists that I really love to come to Austin. It's like we're giving you an award, you have to come, right? So year one, we reunited Tribe 8, which was like so amazing. We've honored Amy Sprinkle, we honored Lizzie Borden last year, right? And so this year, our Legacy awardee is Phranc, who, this page, you're right there. I was seeing Paige's Facebook, I think it was Facebook today, that you posted something about Phranc being the one, out gay person that you knew as a kid, right? Like in the public sphere. Lesbian, yes. And for me, and probably because we're similar generations, the same thing, right? I grew up in tiny town in Massachusetts. I was the first out gay person in my high school. As you can imagine, that wasn't the greatest experience, right? It was 1990, right? So it was a time when there weren't a lot of out gay youths, especially in small town places like where I grew up. So I eventually found, through doing some volunteer work at a domestic violence shelter, I found my first queers, right? Who were all lesbian women, right? Yes. I was 14, 15, they were older, meaning they were 17, 18, which was super old at the time, right? But they really took me under their wings and taught me everything I knew about queer culture, right? They were my entry point. I mean, one of the first things that they did was they played some Phranc records for me. Yes. They also took me to a lot of Indigo Girls concerts. I've been to so many Indigo Girls concerts. Yes. But going back to the earlier kind of out comment, right? Of course, even back then, everyone knew that the Indigo Girls were queer, they were lesbians, right? And they were sort of out about it, but not really, not in the way that Phranc was at all, right? He was explicit and blatant and out there, not even right from 1990, but from a decade and plus before, right? Going back to the early punk movement in the 1970s, right? Phranc was punk when punk was just being invented, right? Phranc is one of the original queer punks from bands like Nervous Gender, right? Which, yes, inaugurated synth punk as a kind of genre, right? Moving to recent bands like Le Tigre, etc., right? A part of that legacy. Catholic Discipline that Phranc was also a part of, yes. And then eventually, right, gets into kind of folk music, right? And the story that Phranc often tells is that she wanted people to understand the lyrics, right? Which often you can't do when it comes to punk, right? And that's where, right, it became Phranc's personality became even more out, right? Singing songs about bull dagger swagger, right? And demonstrating that very same thing, right, on stage, right, as being this kind of amazing butch presence, really visible butch presence.
You're doing my whole show.
Oh, as I was saying. So what an amazing opportunity as a young gay person to have someone like Phranc out there in the world and to be taken under the wings of these amazing lesbian women and introduced to this music that was political, that was passionate, that had a sense of humor, right? But that was also pushing really important issues throughout the lyrics, from challenging the use of swastikas in music to making people rethinking parking in disabled parking spaces, right? Which is also important. So excited to have Phranc here today, and so excited to be doing a Legacy Award. There's going to be a whole program. Phranc is going to come out here and I guess say some things I already just said. And then we'll have an award and a special tribute at the very end. So enjoy.
Thank you, Corinne. I like you, yes I do. You're the one for me. I like you, yes I do. You're the one for me. I like you 'cause you're not icky. I like you because you're picky. I like you because you're nice to me. Oh, I like you, yes I do. You're the one for me. I like you, yes I do. You're the one for me. I like you 'cause you smell good and look good when you chop wood. I like you because you're kind to me. Oh, I like you, yes I do. You're the one for me. I like you, yes I do. You're the one for me. I don't know if I love you, but I am quite fond of you. And anyway it goes, I'll be your friend. 'Cause I like you, yes I do. You're the one for me. I like you, yes I do. You're the one for me. Could be. You're the one for me. Thank you. Wow. Well, I'm Phranc with a PH and a hard, see? Still your basic, average, old, well, Jewish lesbian folk singer. And I'm thrilled to be here at Outsider Fest, and thank you, Corinne, for that wonderful introduction. And you really did start telling the story that I'm going to tell. So I am thrilled to be here, and this is, well, let's get started. Welcome to Phranc, the all-American Jewish lesbian folk singer and the art of the cardboard cobbler. This will be a multimedia presentation. Yes, it all started back then. And really I'm going to tell the story much in the way that Corinne was telling it, and the way that I grew up and came out. And I was a very determined junior dyke. And I was lucky. I had the support of my grandmothers, basically my grandma Miriam, and she was the one who took me to art museums and showed me art, and took me to the LA County Art Museum, and for the first time I saw art that didn't look like art. It was the billiard balls, and I thought, wow, if that's art, then I love art. Art can be anything. So it was like the seed was just planted then. And she was also the one that when I was 16 and making those trips to the library, because there wasn't the internet, you would just go to the library and I would come home with stacks of books, anything that had the word lesbian in it, anything that I could identify with And I would bring home these stacks of books, and I was just tortured. And one day I was in the station wagon with my mom and my grandma, and we were taking the books back to the library. And my mom made a crack about the books. And my grandmother said, "Jackie, don't knock it unless you've tried it." Soon after that, I left home, and I came out, and I left home, and went down to the Venice boardwalk and played my guitar on the boardwalk there, and then I found my way to the Women's Building in downtown Los Angeles and became part of the Feminist Studio Workshop. And here's a short clip of a very young Phranc.
Gonna play? Okay.
I'm Phranc, and PHRNC, and I'm an artist.
And those were those same lesbians that surrounded Curran. They were the ones that took me under their wings. They all took care of me, and they were all, I was 17 and they were probably in their early 20s. Some of them were older, and they really provided, here's the notes. They provided a community for me, and they supported me, and that is where I found my identity. That's where I found the strength in my identity, through consciousness raising and sitting in those circles and just hashing it out, and being with these other women let me really be able to identify myself, so that as I moved forward from playing my guitar on the 3rd floor of the Women's Building to my first concert ever at the Los Angeles Women's Saloon. Yes, it was expensive back then. So when I started playing solo, and I was ready, and I had been at the Women's Building, and I was trained as a silkscreen and an offset printer, and I decided, I graduated from the Feminist Studio Workshop, I would go to San Francisco, the lesbian Mecca, and I would find more women. And what I found was punk rock. So, the only work I could get in San Francisco was nude modeling at the Art Institute. So I came back down to LA, and all I wanted to do was be in a band. That's all I wanted to do. So I put on a little suit and tie and go out to a club, and I'd stand against the wall and try to look cool. And one day, this guy came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to be in a band?" I said, "Not can I play the guitar, not can I sing or anything, just do I want to be in a band?" Because that's all you really needed. You just wanted to be in a band, so you made a band. So I said, "Yeah, I want to be in a band." He said, "Great, because it's called Nervous Gender." And that is Nervous Gender. That's Gerardo Velasquez, and that's me in the middle. And there's Edward Stapleton, and Mikey Ochoa was taking the picture. And then here we are at the Hong Kong Cafe, and there's Michael Ochoa's playing synthesizer. It was a synthesizer band. It was very, very different. It was different from any music that I grew up with Broadway records in my house, and folk records, and, Woody Guthrie records, and all of a sudden I'm with this, in this band singing, "Jesus was a cock-sucking Jew from Galilee. Jesus was just like me, a homosexual nymphomaniac, a homosexual nymphomaniac. Walking the streets of LA, walking the streets alone, walking the streets of LA alone, till a man in a shit-colored Cadillac comes and said, 'Hey, baby, wanna get stoned? Hey, baby, wanna get stoned?' I said, 'Yeah, hon, what? Yeah, hon, what?' And then he pulled out these clear plastic tubes. You know me, I'm a sucker for those clear plastic tubes, and so now I'm a fallen angel. I'm a Jesus clone." Nervous Gender. So, it was a crazy time. At the same time, I was a nervous gender. I played guitar in Catholic Discipline and was in a short-lived band called Castration Squad, which was a great band with Alice Bagg and Sharon Wilhelm, and hey, Alice Bagg, and Tiffany Kennedy, and it was great. And the way that band formed was Shannon had read an article in the newspaper about this castration squad, and it was a vigilante group of women who found rapists that had not been convicted, and they castrated them and left them. Had a doctor was part of the group, and they were very careful about the way they did everything, but they castrated these guys and then bandaged them and left them on the steps. So that's where the idea for castration came from, just so you don't get confused. And but the band was nothing like that. It was just, it was snarling, and it was political, and it was a lot of fun. But surrounded by the mayhem of the punk rock scene in Los Angeles, what started out as a very community-driven, very kind of friendly political community, as time went on, it became more and more aggro and less friendly. So I found the need to write this song. Take off your swastika, make it angry. Take off your swastika, it really nauseates me. It said, Frank, it's just a symbol, it's just an emblem, it's just a righteous declaration. Well, it means a little more to me. Fascism isn't anarchy. Fascism isn't anarchy. Fascism isn't anarchy. Sure, I got Jewish damage. What the hell do you expect? 13 years of Hebrew school. All the slides they're project of all the burned bodies of all the concentration camps. The concerts that I go to in the White House and TV shows, I see a little Hitlers everywhere I go. Take off your swastika, making me angry. Take off your swastika, really nauseating me. It said, Frank, it's just a symbol, it's just an emblem, it's just a righteous declaration. Well, it means a little more to me. 'Cause I'm a Jewish lesbian, you say. Fascism isn't anarchy. Fascism isn't anarchy. Fascism isn't anarchy. If it was you and those ovens, you wouldn't think it was so cool. If it was you and those ovens, you wouldn't think it was so cool. If it was you and those ovens, you wouldn't think it was so goddamn cool. Unfortunately, that song has not gone out of style yet. So then, this happened. Give me a pair of pectorals, like Diana Nyan. I wanna swim. Folksinger came out with the $1,200 that I saved from teaching swimming and lifeguarding. And I went into this little studio in Venice, California, and made this record. It came out on Rhino Records. And when this record came out, I had the opportunity to come out in a lot more places and stand on a lot more stages and come out and be who I was. And it was a very, very exciting time for me. You know, I didn't know how to make a record. I didn't know anything. But I started meeting other like-minded musicians, and Amazon is my tribute to the great ones. I Enjoy Being a Girl came out when did it come out? In 1989 on Island Records. And let's bring it down just a little bit. So when this record came out, it was exciting. I went and I made the record cover. I knew what I wanted it to look like. Rocky Schenck took that album cover photo. It was modeled on an old movie photo of Alice Faye. She had pussy willows in hers. And I had this great cover. I had recorded the record with Victor Lorenzo from the Violent Femmes and put the whole package together, and then just kind of went door to door to record companies until somebody said they would put it out, and that person was Chris Blackwell. And so I was out, and when I when I toured with this record, I threw out tampons that were stamped and said, "I enjoy being a girl." And the marketing campaign was a hat box. I'll have to take a picture of this. It was a hat box trimmed in red and white striped rickrack with a red bow on it that said, "Phranc, I enjoy being a girl." And when you opened it up, there was pink tissue paper inside and 2 powder puffs that had buttons on them. One said, "I enjoy being a girl." The other one said, "Let's talk Phranc." And there was a refrigerator magnet in the shape of a refrigerator. And there was a little glass of milk, little milk glass, a 50s milk glass, with a package of powdered milk in the glass. And this was the promotional campaign to try to get those straight radio programmers and record store owners to give me a bin card and to play me on the radio. So we made nail files that said, "File under rock." Because I'd get put in the folk section and I was trying to move forward. And this was one of the other publicity stunts that we did for this record. Now, if you know me, I never shave my legs. But to have the opportunity to do it with the entire record company as the promotion for this record, that was pretty fun. So this record came out in 1991. direction says she remembers when I played this for her in her kitchen. I don't feel romantic about you. I never think about you or the things that you do. I don't stop to wonder why you don't call. No, I don't feel romantic about you at all. And even if I did, I wouldn't let you know. 'Cause God knows what you do if I let it show. Don't feel romantic about you. I never think about you or the things that you do. Don't stop to wonder why you don't call. No, I don't feel romantic about you at all. Did I blow it? I think I blew it. Why did I call? I've taken all your pictures down on my wall. I don't feel romantic about you. Never think about you or the things that you do. I don't stop to wonder why you don't call. No, I don't feel romantic about you at all. No, not at all. I'm not romantic at all. No, not at all. I'm not romantic at all. There you have it, two nice girls. I came and recorded songs from Positively Phranc here at Willie Nelson's studio right after the IRS took it, right? And here we are. There they are singing on 64 Ford, which I won't attempt to do by myself. But the single, we wanted it to be a really big hit, so look at this. I really didn't get any radio airplay, but I tried really hard, and we even sprung for a television commercial. That's what that played on MTV for about 2 seconds, and it was black and white. It was very, very sexy. I'll have to get it so I can include it in this. It started at my boots and it panned at my body very, very slowly. It was supposed to look like one of the old Calvin ads. And then it got to my head. And I said, I'm just being frank. Anyway, so it was exciting. You know, during the times these records came out, I got all kinds of opportunities to go out and tour. I played with Two Nice Girls, played with Violent Femmes, I played with Husker Du, played with the Smiths. And none of these things happened because I had a booking agent or anyone really pushing for me. It was because the artists from other bands, and this is something, as artists, because there's so many artists and musicians here in the audience, you know, musicians helping musicians. The way I got on these tours were because people called and said, we want Phranc, you know, and their booking agent said, no, we're not going to put that dyke on, no. And they tried to keep me on. Sorry, it didn't work. So Morrissey requested me many times. That's how I got on the tour.
Yeah,
And
as it should be.
so I toured with him around quite a bit. And then one day we were in California, we were touring. We were at it was the big car race track in Sacramento. It was extremely hot out. And all the guys had their shirts off at sound check. So did I. So we had a good time at that show, but they were just kind of like, Phranc. And I was just like, I'm sorry. So all kinds of stuff happened. That record was just starting to get played a little bit, and the tour was very, very successful, and it was a very exciting time. And in the middle of all that excitement, when everything was kind of just building up to a big peak, I got a phone call when I was on the radio. I remember exactly where I was. I was in Boston. I was on the radio, and we were going to play Great Woods that night. And the phone rang in the studio, and I went in the other room and took it. It was my dad telling me that my brother had been killed. And, you know, I came home immediately. I remember, like, driving in the car to get to the train, to get to the plane, to get to the, you know, the blur that happens when you have, like, extreme loss and circumstances, when tragedy just grabs you like that. Everything's like a blur. And I came home and I left the tour. And, you know, they tried to get me back on that tour. They called me. And, you know, I did. I went back and I played in London a couple of dates, and it was just, I didn't feel anything. It just felt so ridiculous to be on stage. It just felt ridiculous at that time. And so I came home and I did things to where I could be creative and a little bit distracted, and so one of the things I would love to do before I really started making my art again was I collect G.I. Joes. And I love collecting G.I. Joes. And I would go to these G.I. Joe conventions. And I am at a G.I. Joe convention there, dressed as a G.I. Joe. And I feel like this song is very appropriate for this picture. I'll tell you of a young girl, and you will understand. Her mind was bent on roving unto a foreign land. She dressed herself in sailor's clothes, or so it did appear, and hired out with her captain to serve him for a year. The captain wiped his see her husband had engaged such a handsome cabin boy, and now and then she'd give a kiss, and she would have liked a toy, but the captain found out the secret of the handsome cabin boy. Her cheeks were red and rosy, and her hair hung in its curl. Sailors often laughed and said he looked just like a girl. Being the captain's favorite, the others didn't annoy, and the waist did swell on pretty Nell, the handsome cabin boy. 'Twas in the Bay of Biscay our gallant ship did plow. One night among the sailors was a fierce and scurrying row. They tumbled from their hammocks, for their sleep it did destroy, and swore about the groaning of the handsome cabin boy. Oh, doctor, dear doctor, the cabin boy did cry, my time has come, I am undone, and I must surely die. The doctor come a-running, and he smiled at the fun, to think a sailor lad should bear a daughter or a son? The sailors, when they heard the news, they all did stand and stare. The child belonged to none of them, they solemnly did swear. The captain's wife, she looked at him and she said, I wish you joy, for it's either you or I's betrayed the handsome cabin boy. Of rum and drank success to trade, and likewise to the cabin boy who is neither man nor maid. Here's hoping the wars don't rise again, our sailors to destroy, and here's hoping for a jolly lot more like the handsome cabin boy. That's a very, very old sea shanty that I learned from Alex Dodkin. Oh, the mic is good.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, oh. It's wireless. It's magic. So Alex Dodkin taught me that song.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the original Jewish lesbian folk singers. So I went to G.I. Joe shows, and the other thing I did is I didn't want to get back on stage. And at the time, many years ago, I had been in a songwriting workshop, the Mariposa Folk Festival, and the topic was the worst song you ever learned. And the worst song at that time that I thought I had ever learned was Neil Diamond's Solitary Man. Because my guitar teacher made me learn it. And I had no idea what it was. So I played that song. And years later, I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, Holly Hughes, and she said, you should do Neil Diamond. And I was like, no. She said, no, really, you should. Hot August Phranc. And then Hot August Phranc was born. So it was really great because I could go on stage and not be Phranc. Phranc became the opening act for Hot August Phranc. So I do a couple songs, and then Hot August Phranc would come out, and it was very fun putting on that chest hair. Yeah, it was really fun. Did all of the hits. Had a blast, and so that was really great. And we just reprised Hot August Phranc with Elvez. If you're Elvez and Hot August Phranc just did a show together. That was really fun, and maybe we'll get to bring it to Austin. So it was Frank and Robert at the beginning, because I know Robert from when he was in the Zeros from the punk time. So we came out dressed as twins, and we played our songs, and we did a little tribute to punk rock, and then at the intermission we came back as Frank, Hot August Phranc and Elvez. So the other thing that happened during this period of time, my in-between time, was I started seeing music that was exciting and I identified with, and I hadn't listened to music that I was really that really inspired me. And I went to a Team Dresch concert, and I was like, oh, "These are my people. This is it." And so I met the gals, and we started a friendship, and then this is how Bulldagger Swagger, that single came out on Kill Rock Stars, and then this record came out on Kill Rock Stars. And well, I see this morning with a little Surfer Dyke pal for you. That is not a photoshopped photograph.
Yeah.
It's real. It's not my real guitar, it's a thrift shop guitar. People always ask, is that real? Did you ruin your guitar? Okay, so that was fun. And Team Dresch played Donna played on it. Toby from Bikini Kill played on this record. Patty Schimmel. I met so many women musicians that were part of Riot Girl and were just out there working, and it really motivated and excited me to go back and start performing and touring. Yeah, at the same time,
Yeah, that's really good.
At the same time, I started a family with my partner, Lisa, and I didn't really want to tour much. And, you know, I put this record out. This is another big lesson. I put this record, Milkman, out myself because I thought I could do it better. And you learn a lot when you do things like that. And I made a pretty good record. I was really happy with it. Not too many people got to hear it or could buy it because I didn't have distribution and I didn't have people helping me. And you need a lot of help to make things successful. You can, you know, the do-it-yourself energy and practicality is fantastic. It's what gets things made. But you have to have a lot of do-it-yourselfers and some people that are maybe a little bit ahead of you in the do-it-yourself thing that have kind of developed something to get things to move a little bit further. So I'm somebody that's really, always really tried to do everything all by myself, and my success doing it all by myself has not been great. But whenever I've had a community surrounding me, I have been really successful. I can't do anything by myself. Without you, there's like nothing. I mean, and look at this festival. I mean, I'm so honored and thrilled to be here because you are my people. You know? I mean, I don't want to go all Glenn Close on you now. But, so when I started my family, didn't want to go on the road and I needed a job. And so I was very defiant, and Lisa said to me, she goes, "So you have to get a job." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I'm going to sell Tupperware. I don't know how I got that idea. I opened the phone book, I found Tupperware, and I called Tupperware. I did. I mean, what greater consciousness raising tool than a Tupperware party? Welcome to the Tupperware parties! What I say? Hey, I'm your Tupperware lady, yeah. I'm your Tupperware lady. Ooh. I'm your Tupperware lady, yeah. I'm your Tupperware lady. You can buy it from me. It's got a lifetime guarantee, yeah. Shipping and breaking, cracking and peeling. So if you're feeling like you're a square, just give yourself some Tupperware from me. Your Tupperware lady, oh yeah. I love Tupperware, baby. And I'm gonna show you how to micro steam, how to crystal wave, rock your rock and serve, spin your spin and say, Tupperware's always a fake. So hey, get some Tupperware, baby, from me. Your Tupperware lady, date a party with me. I'll give you a hostess gift free. I'm so glad you're here with me at the Tupperware party. Tupperware was fantastic. I mean, when I joined Tupperware, it was like the 1950s. I mean, it was really You did everything by hand. I would go out, I'd take my guitar, I love uniforms, as you know. So I made a Tupperware lady uniform, which you saw me. And then I had a delivery version, because you delivered all your own Tupperware at the time, so I put all the Tupperware in the station wagon. I had, the navy blue gas station uniform that the Tupperware lady embroidered. And I would come and drop the Tupperware off at the hostess's house. And, it was really fun. I went to Jubilee, raised a lot of consciousness in Kissimmee, Florida, Tupperware headquarters. At that time, there was one drag queen Tupperware lady. Jeff. It was just the two of us. And we were at the same distributor, Shoreline Distributor. So, he kind of paved the way a little bit for me. And now, two of my guys that I helped train with Monique Jackson-Cook, my Tupperware manager, Quesadilla, and Dixie Longgate. You might have heard of Dixie's Tupperware Party because he's toured around the country. They both perform and sell Tupperware, and they're both top sellers and have changed the face of Tupperware.
Yeah. So
you never know where you're going to raise consciousness. Who knew Tupperware? So, back in the punk rock days, to pay the rent, I would always make art and then have a sale at the last minute. Of course, the only thing I could afford was the cardboard that was in the alley, so it was free. So I love cardboard. Cardboard is the equal opportunity medium. It's there for everybody. It doesn't cost anything. You can draw on it with a pencil that you find. You can paint. So I started focusing because I really, I had Hot August Phranc going, but I really wasn't on stage very much being Phranc. I needed some place where I could make work and not be seen, and the art of and painting and creating in the studio is very different from being on stage. The creative process is similar, but when you make something and it goes somewhere for somebody to see it, you don't see them seeing it, and you don't know. Whereas if I play something for you and you don't like it, I know right away. So I started with two-dimensional, just on a piece of flat cardboard. And then 18th Street Arts Complex in Santa Monica gave me a studio. They just said, we have this space. Please come use it, Phranc. And so then somebody gave me a glue gun and I went crazy. And I went 3D. Yeah. So the blue ribbon cake was the first thing that I did.
That's nice.
So now you're going to go on a little cardboard journey now. We're going to move away from the music for a sec.
Yeah.
And then I got some jobs doing this. The assignment for this job was, lard is better than butter. How would you illustrate that? With King of the Hill lard, of course. That one says it all. Then we kind of went more than 3D with the unmeltable ice cream sandwiches, where I really am finding my cardboard cobbling voice.
Yeah.
They have black felt insoles. And I'm a swimmer and a surfer, and I've had duck feet like these. Well, mine are made of rubber, but my whole life, and I love them. And then this next one is really my self-portrait.
Yeah.
And that's made out of a paper bag and cardboard. This next piece was part of Stonewall 25 at White Collins in New York, heavily influenced by my grandmother. And now we're going to take a little peek into Gothtober in the old cardboard Cobbler studio in my garage. Dim the lights a little.
Oh, where's the sound? Oh, sorry. Oh, getting ahead of myself. This is a work in progress.
It's good.
Yeah, we're here.
Still. Oh, here we go. There you go.
Gothtober is an amazing project put on by Juliana Parr, better known as JP. She lives in Los Angeles, and every Halloween she does kind of an online Halloween advent calendar. She invites 31 artists to make a piece of work. It can be an animation, it can be a film, it could be a drawing, it could be just about anything. And on your day that you're assigned, if you click on Gothtober, your piece will appear online. And she's been doing this for many years now. It's really, you just see some incredible artists. And it's all with the kind of Gothtober theme. So this is my costume that I'm making. Nice ukulele soundtrack. So check out Gothtober because all of the years are archived and you can go look at all of the art. That's my Nana's sewing machine. That's what I learned to sew on.
What year is this?
This is 2008. Of course, we thought we were going to get the Canada Dry endorsement. Happy Gothtober. So Gothtober was great. Another project was Frankenstein. This is another work in progress. I haven't done it in a little while, but we performed it all over. Petra Hayden, Sarah Dale, Tamla Poljak. It was me and 3 other women doing vocal harmony, cello, and guitar. And the objects that we're singing about, objects, food, and rooms, which are the subjects of Gertrude Stein's Tender Buttons. So I put music to some of those pieces, and then I illustrated the pieces. So there'd be I still have the giant cardboard asparagus. They'd be hanging, and then we did it kind of like the opera, so the text would be behind us. And we performed it kind of like a little chamber concert. And then the pieces would be lit when we sang about them. So that's a work in progress, Frankenstein.
That's awesome.
And then I got invited to be part of, by Ann Magnuson, to participate in Q Art Foundation in New York, and they gave me my first big cardboard cobbling show. And what you'll see in this is you're going to see pieces that are sewn. Now you saw my Nana's sewing machine. And I didn't know how to sew. I mean, I failed sewing 3 times. Why would I ever need to know how to sew? Seriously. So I asked somebody in my daughter's preschool class to teach me how to sew, and the first thing I sewed was a teddy bear cape. And then, of course, I was off to the races. And the life jacket you'll see in many incarnations through the rest of the show, and I just finished a big show that was almost all life jackets, and you know, a paper life jacket will save no one.
Yeah.
But the idea of the life jacket and creating it has literally kept me afloat.
Nice.
Paper bag bandana. This is a studio at 18th Street. there's a little detail. I don't know if you can see the Condoleezza Rice. There's a little box of it. We know what that's about. So when I sew, I roll out big pieces of brown craft paper, just regular old craft paper that you get on a giant roll, and I paint it to look like fabric, like this, and then I cut it and sew it. So here's my red check shirt. I think those trunks are pretty handsome.
Yes.
So these are all sewn, and if you're a sewer, I know there's some sewers out here, you know when you sew, it's right sides together. And so when you're inside out in paper, it can be a little tricky. Charles Phoenix, the purveyor of Americana, commissioned me to make costumes for a roller skating Thanksgiving show. There are the costumes. There are the skaters. I have to find the video of them skating because it's really incredible. Especially if you can see pumpkin pie on the end. The little hat with the whipped cream. So my shows are pretty much themed. The next theme show was a winter show. That's a cardboard flexi flyer.
Nice.
That's the picture that Kern had in Outsider. That's me riding my cardboard sled. Classic reindeer sweater.
Nice.
I love pinball. And this is the Fancy Pants air freshener factory. Sometimes these are available at my Etsy store at the Cardboard Cobbler shop. And you can see it says it smells like Phranc. Another item that is sometimes available. The theme from 2 shows was toys. And the show and the work is always about nostalgia and identity and very much things I love, things I have, things I wish I had, things I want to be. Things are inside me. All the pieces are very autobiographical. Annie Oakley. And the label on this says, Annie Oakley, I wish I was a girl. It's all about getting dressed up at Halloween in the costume that you want to be in. And Davy Crockett says, I wish I was a boy. Popeye. Yeah, I grew up with these hand puppets, these stiff hand puppets. Here I am striping in the cardboard for the hobby horses. What dyke doesn't love a truck? So the most recent show that happened just this last summer was called Swagger. And the show that I did, one of the shows I did was all outdoor wear. That was a show I did in Idaho. And they described me in one of the press pieces as, what did they call me? A very unique folk singer. It made me so incredibly angry. This is a little town in Idaho, and I have a wonderful, wonderful gallery that represents me. But the press just sometimes just wants to glide on over it. So I thought, well, when I do my next show, my show in Los Angeles, it will be Swagger. And it will be very much about identity and survival and who I am. So there were many, many life jackets in this, lots of paper life jackets. And the other thing I did is I made for the opening, which we had a butch parade. the opening of Swagger, and I made actual life jackets out of cloth. And I put them on some of the butches, you will see. And designed flags and shirts. And coding that these flags were up, but I realized that people didn't know what they said. So I had to print something out. This one says, "Come out." This was the first dress I ever made. And I had a pattern for a dress, and I made these dresses because it was a big part of my growing up. My Aunt Sadie, who was Nana, who had the sewing machine's sister, her husband, Uncle Lou, had a chain of dress shops. And guess who got to go over to Aunt Sadie's and try on all those dresses? And it really... One says, "Closet case." Please don't make me wear this dress. Junior Dyke. Junior Dyke. Some of my favorite butches. We actually made some shirts for the Butch Wranglers, too. Drag queen's hot and stagger, every bold dagger swagger, come on, do the bold dagger swagger, yeah, do the bold dagger swagger, do the bold dagger swagger, yeah. The daggers here tonight? Yeah! I went to charm school, I got a degree in full-fledged femininity. You know, now I'm not trying to be a man, I'm just being who I am, and that's a very, very, very butch lesbian. And do the bold dagger swagger, yeah, do the bold dagger swagger, do the bold dagger swagger, yeah. Oh. So I love you, outsiders. Thank you so much. Oh, I love butches with short hair, butches with long. I love butches in suits and butches in sarongs. It's true. I love you. Wasn't an all-gender one. Why was everybody staring at me? A little girl giggled, a lady gasped. One woman almost had a heart attack. She started doing the bold dagger swagger, yeah, do the bold dagger swagger, do the bold dagger swagger, yeah. Every lipstick, lazy lass, from every drag queen's high heel stagger, to every bold dagger swagger, come on, do the bold dagger swagger, yeah, do the bold dagger swagger, do the bold dagger swagger, yeah. Oh yeah. forever and just always been supportive and incredibly wonderful, all of you, so life lovers.
Let's give it up one more time for Phranc!
Come on, Phranc. You can sing along on Life Lover. Are you ready? Here we go. Recently, friends have been departing permanently. When I meet, I plan to stick around, you see, 'cause I'm a life lover, that's me. I feel very, very lucky to be here. Just keep breathing in and out. Don't kill yourself. And feel proud of who you are. And support those around you who are struggling and having a hard time accepting. Because it is not easy. This is a festival for people who walk out the door every day and raise their head high and do more than survive. Because every single one of you makes a big difference in this world just by being who you are. Because recently, friends have been departing permanently. When I meet, I plan to stick around, you see. Because I'm a life lover, that's me. And I'm real lucky. All my parts that work, my eyes, my nose, my hands, my fingers, my brain, my toes, and that makes me alive. Oh, yes, it does. I'm not gonna go away. I'm here to stay because recently friends have been disappearing mysteriously. When I meet, I plan to stick around, you see. 'Cause I'm a life lover, that's me. Hands together, life lovers. Give me a beat. Come on. Don't stop now. Don't stop. Don't stop, life lovers. Don't let me down. Nope, it hasn't always been easy, folks. Sometimes I get real depressed too. Hey, but if I can do it, every single one of you can do it too. Because of recently, friends have been departing permanently. When I meet, I plan to stick around, you see. 'Cause I'm a life lover, that's me. Life lovers, will you sing with me? I'm a life lover, loud and clear. I'm a life lover, come on. I'm a life lover, a little bit louder. I'm a life lover, like a real outsider. I'm a life lover, don't stop. I'm a life lover. You sing that, I'll sing this. I'm a life lover. Friends have been departed. I'm a life lover. Not me, I plan to stick around. I'm a life lover. We're life lovers. We're outsiders. We're life lovers. We're life lovers. Thanks so much. Stick around. I'm excited about all the rest of outside the
So we have a few things to kick off our Legacy Award for Phranc. So stick around, Phranc. So I would like to bring up Homo Photo Club, who's also known for doing the Butch Feelings calendar. I think, Gretchen, maybe you wanted to say a few words before we confer the award.
Dear Phranc,
Yeah.
this is as it should be. With how you're getting this, a whole life, being you, being out there, singing about it, being an artist, being a career artist, just doing it, being my pal for so long, for a long time. Being able to have you be so brave in so many ways, so open, showing how it's done was hard, and how you just keep at it. I'm delighted with my town for seeing you properly and for doing this. It means so much to me. You're just a treat. You people don't know how much fun I've had with this one. There for Hot August Frank. I saw that shit. I saw Frankenstein. I got to be in the studio. I got to be on top of the reefer with Alison Bechtel. Remember that? These are my pals. Beth Schindler and Deb Norris. We're Homo Photo Club. We work in film. We put out the Butch Feelings calendar. We put out our shows. And we were asked to make your legacy award, which is such a thrilling thing. Thank you for thinking of us. It's correct, as it should be. So this is a collaboration project that we put together. It's a photograph. It's one of the very first photographs that I printed in the darkroom that I took of you when we very first met. And Beth had this great idea. Beth had this amazing idea to make the pinwheel, showing all the things
There's
you
the
do.
cardboard cobbler.
Yes.
Yes.
Your identities.
Punk rock. Jabroni. Folksinger. Butch.
And we are actually not done yet. We're not done yet. We also have a cake to celebrate the Legacy Award. Could we bring out the cake, please, to show the audience, and we can pass it around. Yes, come on. This is Laura Brown. Da, da.
Holy shit.
Oh, sorry.
That's great. How do they see it?
You okay, you-
Wow. See what happens if you come out?
But wait, there's even more. So our grand finale, Butch County is going to do a tribute to Phranc. So stick around, it's going to take them a few minutes to set up. But tribute to Phranc next, and then cake.
WWE it just bam.
Yeah. So
Don't hurt the award though.
I guess I'll do all the talking right now. In 2010, in January of 2010, I haven't told Frank this. I don't think Paige even realizes this. In January 2010, I heard my wife scream loudly in the other room. Frank just said Butch County is her favorite band. I said, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, what? And I was like, I think we did like one of these together when we met. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? How does Frank know anything about me? So I don't know whether it was the name Butch County, if it was the music, but that moment blew my shit out of the water, and I didn't have much time to celebrate because my mom got sick, and she said, Oh, that's no big deal. You don't need to come. I was like, no, I'm coming. So I hauled ass. It was like the next day or 2 days later. And I get there, and she's in the hospital, and she's having the surgery the next day. And we had this, I brought my computer, and we had this conversation. Okay, now I'm getting misty. And I showed her Phranc's pictures. And I said, she just said, and I told her all about who Phranc was. And that's the last conversation I had with my mom, because the next day she went to surgery, and she lived a few more days, but we never were able to talk again. And so this night is important to me for a lot of reasons. So thank you for sticking around. I hope you do me proud. Where is Phranc? Okay. It's very bright. You're by my wife. That's a good place to be. She's very happy. All right. This one is appropriately called Butch County. So this next song is the one Phranc heard. So, and it is all about community. Wait, I must get some drink. Because when your lips start speaking your teeth.
So not sexy.
Katie, you could never not be sexy. Come on now.
Well, thank you indeed. But this one's called Sugarloaf. It's all about a gathering I've been doing with friends for, what is it now, maybe 31 years? 31 years. Keeping it real, keeping ourselves alive. Sugarloaf Mountain. Thank you, Dee Dee No No, Deb Norris filled in, the Fabulosa crew. Thank you for staying around, and of course, thank you.
Phranc, thank
The
you,
goddess
outsider.
of all time, Butch Guys.